Oh boy, it's official. Elon Musk owns Twitter, which means you get a misgendering, you get a misgendering, you get misgendered. Everyone's getting misgendered right now by me. You can comment your preferred pronouns below so I know to be sensitive to no one and ignore them and call you whatever the hell I want. Haha! Now, this represents a good win for humanity. I'm enjoying all the temper tantrums of the people saying, I'm leaving Twitter if Elon Musk owns it. By because it's not this is, let's put Defiant L's Twitter account into hyperdrive here. How many people are going to say, well, Twitter's a private company, you're stupid for starting Parler or Gab or whatever, to as soon as they can't get their way, they want a new thing. So have fun, screaming leftists who want to create some sort of like lefty Gab. I don't know. Maybe there should be a new social media account called Pronouns, where everyone's just constantly inventing new pronouns. Or they, them. Themer, themer, they, them, they are, themer, or both, because they are, themer, because you can't decide between the two of them. They are. Oh, I like this. They are the left-wing Twitter. I expect it to be about as successful as Truth Social. Now, this is hopefully really good. Thank you to whoever decided to nuke the Babylon Bees account, because that saved Twitter. And could present a big win in the culture for non-insane people. Now, I don't want to say win for conservatives. It's not a loss because Elon Musk isn't a conservative. He owns Tesla. He's a Silicon Valley guy. He's just not an insane leftist, which I guess is our qualification for a conservative in the modern culture. But he did take away a toy from the radical left wing, which was being used to manipulate, the culture against people who's watching this video's values. So one of the things that, people are sensitive to talk about, and, the National Telegraph, we have to be very careful about talking the 2020 voting extravaganza and what transpired there. Now, saying the election was stolen for Trump based on voting ballots is a good way to get your social media nuked on Twitter. It's still on YouTube, too. Now, I'm not sure how good it is to have sort of heterodox views on this issue, but one of the things that the arguments you can make for the election in 2020 being stolen, nothing to do with votes, right? But the fact that Twitter suppressed the story about Hunter Biden's laptop, nuked the New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop because they had a thing against doxed information, even though it wasn't doxed, he just left it at a laptop, right? This is one of the ways in which elections are manipulated. It's not so much in the vote counting, it's in the fact that stories that undermine the candidate of choice for the people in Silicon Valley, San Francisco techies, which is the furthest to the left candidate, are suppressed and destroyed, not allowed to see the light of day. So by suppressing the truth, you can argue in a way that is one way in which elections are manipulated. How would the election have gone had the Hunter Biden laptop story been allowed to circulate? Had the normal people been allowed to see that it looks like Hunter Biden had some shady dealings with Russians, Ukrainians, and Chinese, and not only did Barack Obama Joe Biden and likely Barack Obama know about this, but corrupt dealings with Russian oligarchs, the CCP, and Ukrainian corrupt government officials led to the direct enrichment of the big guy, likely Joe Biden, at 10%. So would that change people's vote? Maybe, there's a lot of people that are just like, Orange Man bad, me voting against Orange Man. There's nothing you could say. Like Joe Biden can literally institute a policy saying, I'm going to kill your kids. Yes, you, Susie from Delaware. And Susie from Delaware might be like, Orange Man bad. At least this will help the environment or something ridiculous, right? So there's a very real chance that some people would vote against Trump no matter what. And there are a lot of people out there. And some people are just like dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. But how many people would have changed their vote and either said, I can't vote for Biden, I'll vote for the Green Party, or I'll vote for the Libertarian Party, or I will vote Trump now because it looks like Joe Biden is incredibly corrupt and his son looks to be involved in some sort of, corruption scheme, also drugs and likely pedophilia on the laptop. There was naked pictures of minors. There's some pretty disturbing things of, him and his dead brother's wife. I mean, Hunter Biden, didn't turn out too great. But he sat on the board of Burisma and he made, hundreds of millions of dollars just by being Joe Biden's son. Essentially, it looked like Hunter Biden, although a massive fuck-up and drug addict, was used to funnel money to Joe Biden, and that was his purpose, is to make deals with private citizen Hunter Biden, which then enriched father Joe Biden. Now, you can scream all you want about, but Trump had Ivanka and Jared. I'm sorry, Jared was the most successful foreign diplomat of all time in the American history. Jared created the Abrahamic Accords. Jared got the first peace deals between Israel and Arab neighbors and, reset the Arab Gulf states into a pro-American stance against the Iranians. All of it undone by Joe Biden, but hopefully redone by the next administration. So if you want to be like, oh, what does Jared do? I get it. Yeah, Jared probably should have got a job at the White House. However, he was the most successful foreign diplomat in all of American history. So Hunter Biden just got really high and, drunk and, had sex with everything that moved, apparently. No peace deals because of Hunter Biden. A lot of bruised bars. Okay, so back to the Twitter. So Elon Musk now has Twitter, and it's, again, very interesting to see that the mask is off. Now, the mask has been off to anyone paying attention for the last, 10 years, 5 years maybe. But again, it's another mask-off moment where people are openly saying, hey, if there's no leftist homogeny here, this is somehow oppression. The fact that you're going to let Donald Trump, you're just going to let different people speak, well, this is horrible, right? I didn't see any of these people stand up as, again, so let's, story time. I'm Jewish, you might have realized. Also, pretty Zionist, right? Israel has the right to exist. I don't care about what Hamas has to say. Now, this is one of the reasons I never really got in or sympathized with the left and their BS, because it doesn't apply to me, right? Jews, we are the highest recipient of hate crimes in Canada and America, right? So if there's a real thing of, hate crimes, right, we would address anti-Semitism. However, a lot of the anti-Semitic hate crimes don't come from the people that fit the narrative. So when it's a Tree of Life synagogue shooting and it's a white supremacist, all the anti-Semites feel comfortable embracing us. But for years on Twitter, as long as I've been on Twitter, you've allowed to openly call for the extermination of 6 million Jewish people, as long as you couch it as anti-Zionism and not anti-Semitism. You have people rallying on the streets of Toronto, calling Jews dogs, cheering for missile attacks against Jews, cheering for the death of Jews. You have people posting pictures, handing out, celebrating the death of Jews in Israel. Again, okay, am I saying, ban all the Palestinian activists? No. But what I'm saying is, for years, I've had to sit there and watch while people who call themselves Palestinian activists have cheered for the literal death of Jews and incited violence towards mass murder of Jews. And no one says anything. No one cares. Right? We care when Donald Trump misgenders someone. Right? We care when the Babylon Bee misgenders someone or Donald Trump says Hillary's crooked. All of a sudden, oh no, we must protect the minorities. Yes, because Hillary Clinton is the most vulnerable minority on the planet. So spare me your sentimentality on these issues is really what I'm saying. I'm not saying, oh no, Jews have it so hard here on Twitter. How did we go? No, okay? All I'm saying is I've seen people literally advocate for the genocide of my people on social media and have it defended by the cultural elites inside Twitter HQ. That's all I'm saying. So spare me on this, Twitter's going to become this hellscape because of Elon Musk. Don't care. I don't care. Your criticism is invalid. I don't care. You are liars. You're hypocrites. You don't care when it applies to someone who doesn't fit the narrative. So spare me. Spare me, right? If it's Hindus being attacked by Pakistani terrorist organizations, you don't care. If it's Jews being slaughtered by terrorists, you don't care. If it's white people being attacked by anyone, you don't care. When it's Stop Asian Hate Week, oh, who are the people beating the Asians? Asian hate. Yeah, we're done with that. Just done. So you don't care. You don't care unless it fits your narrative. And that's fine. Have your narrative. Just allow the truth to also be on there. That's all I'm saying. So spare me. Now, the other interesting implications are Donald Trump's probably going to come back, which is going to be hilarious. I'm looking forward to it. Bring back Trump onto Twitter. I want him now. At the time I'm filming this video, it is no Trump. By the time this video is up, I bet it hopefully is Trump. By the way, I'm switching this to 9 p.m. So every 9 p.m. there'll either be a TNT Live or Uninterrupted. It was just too hard. If I have a busy day and it has to be 8 p.m. with the editing and the formatting and the thing, it's just like race against the clock a lot of times. So 9 p.m. is a new time, new to this. So by 9 p.m. I'm hoping Donald Trump is back. Please, our Lord and Savior Elon bring back Donald Trump, the greatest troll in all of Twitter history, the owner of the libs, make crier of all the nonsense people. So that would be great if we could do that. Getter is now dead. Gab is now dead. Parler is now dead. True Social is dead. All the other ones, I can't even name them. So thank you, Daniel, for being like, yeah, I'm not going to invest time in like trying to start up a new Gab thingy-majig. Like, this is where Elon Musk is absolutely right. If Elon Musk tried to start a new thing, no one's going to migrate off there. Like, if you have a new free speech Twitter version, there are no, like, like New York Times, CBC journalists, like all the people like who aren't right-wing. Most of those people in the center, it's not like they're lefties. A lot of people in the center aren't going to just like go to this new platform that allows right-wing politics, right? Because that only appeals to people who are interested in right-wing politics. Twitter is also for sports, right? There's like sports journalists. Like one of the things I have my feed is like tailored to, I get Packers updates, I get Blue Jays updates, right? With the draft coming up, I'm like, if they don't draft a wide receiver, I'm gonna, if the Packers don't draft a wide receiver, I'm getting off Twitter and I'm moving to Canada. That's my thing, right? Baseball, right? I hope the Blue Jays hit 1 billion home runs tonight, while you're watching this. So, those people aren't going to move to Gab or Getter or Parler. And in order to sort of have an echo chamber have a town hall where ideas congregate, you need people who are just like, I'm on it for sports. And then have me write a super awesome tweet about why Trudeau is dumb. And then be like, yeah, I agree. Ding, boom, like. I'm getting exposed to different ideas now. That's the point of Twitter. So in order to save Twitter, you didn't need to, it was impossible at this point to create something new. Elon Musk was right. He had $44 billion lying around. He's like, I'm going to buy this thing, and it is now my toy. And that's amazing. He's the greatest African American of all time. All right, so let's shift on to, I want to sort of bring this up because the last episode I put out, I had actually watched a full episode of CBC, and it was not that bad. It was the first 1 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barden scale. And then I saw the next day they were doing a lead story on inflation. I just didn't have to. I was so freaking busy these days, which is good. A lot of good stuff is happening. And hopefully we'll be able to increase content production quality, blah, 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 blah. But I watched the next CBC episode because it was like the lead story was inflation. And I mean, thankfully Pierre Poilievre exists yelling at inflation because it's one of the things I'm mad. I like Maxime Bernier, who would yell at supply side management, so that was pretty dope, Maxime, for doing that in 2017. Thanks, Scott Atchison, for taking up the mantle and yelling at supply side management this time. But Pierre yelling at the Bank of Canada and the central bankers is my new sort of outlet to just say, "Dah! I've been telling you." So the CBC did a story on inflation, which of course they bring on an expert to say, there's nothing we can do here in Canada. All the inflation factors are global. It's, droughts in South America, it's the war in Russia, and it's supply chains in Shanghai and LA. The ports are clogged. Okay, all of those are factors in inflation. I grant you that. However, the biggest factor in inflation is money printing. Printing a fuck ton of money every 10 seconds. That is what is driving inflation. The Bank of Canada printing money by buying bonds and just injecting into the economy. When you buy bonds and inflect, when the Bank of Canada prints money, puts it into the bond market, all that money really goes to the elites, the 1%, the people with access to the financial sector. It doesn't go to you. Yes, and then the government has to print welfare because things get so crazy that the poor are screwed over. So they take the money and then they have to give out welfare and handouts, which drives up even more inflation, which means they print even more money, right? And then the elites get that and they have to hand out more, blah, 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 and then the middle class is destroyed. It is very, very simple. Actually, it's very, very mediocre. Not simple, but it's not that complicated. It's relatively simple at economic conflict. Okay, what is money? Money is a human psychotechnology that quantifies value. If you're an evolutionary biologist like me, you'd say debt, but often say value because people lose you when you say debt. So value. We'll stick with the term value. Now, that used to be tied to some sort of hard money or sound money, which is gold, traditionally. So, the reason why money is valuable is because it lets you participate in a global economy. You might be from a small town and say, well, I can just barter for things with my friends here in a town of 500 people, and we all know each other. that works. I'm not saying you're bad or wrong for doing that, because that value is backed up by social currency. This is why debt is a better example. But the value is tied to social currency. It's you having a good word, being an honorable person. You can cut hair, someone else can sew dresses, someone else makes boots. The underlying value can also be, is if you're trading, you're then more likely to watch each other's kids, do favors for it's quantifiable social debt, which helps form that community together. But if you need to take this outside of your community, well, now you need money, because you need a unit that quantifies value to take outside. So that used to be gold or hard coins. And the reason why gold is hard money or sound money, well, it's hard because it's physical and sound makes it sound. But there's a limited sense. You can find more gold, but you can't just declare more gold, right? All the money you have is tied, it used to be $35 tied to 1 ounce of gold or whatever it is. In 1971, in order to just say, screw it, we're going to default on our debt, and Nixon takes the money off the gold standard. So now you have money which up until 1970 was portable gold, right? It makes sense why we can't go to gold, right? And have just gold in our pockets and I'm paying for a sub, or I'm paying for all my groceries, or I'm paying for this new TV. It's 3.5 ounces of gold, and then you're just cutting. It makes no sense, right? But you can say $127. That's, whatever units of gold, and that's easy to change, right? Then you can make credit cards, bank cards, ATMs, whatever. Digital stuff. Makes money, makes sense. However, when you take it off the gold standard, fine, money is still fine in a way. It's backed up by governments and productions and all this different stuff. But there's nothing to tie it to, which means you can print more and more and more if you want. It turns out governments want to just print money to solve problems, which means there's more and more money. But what is money? Money is a unit that quantifies value. If there's $10 dollars in this little ecosystem, and you have something that's like a super mega mansion, right? That might be worth $1, right? Because it's worth like 10% of all the value in the world, because it's amazing. It's on this huge plot of land, right? You print more and more money, right? Now there's $100. Well, its value is still 10% of all the value. So now its value is like $10. But its value is still 10% of all that's on. So the more and more money you print, it doesn't add more value to the economy, right? The things you're doing don't, become more valuable. They have the same level of value, but it's now out of whack with the dollars you get. This is inflation, right? So if you are stuck at the same wages, providing a service, or even better, you're just given $2,000 to stay home like we did in Canada, CERB, you're not providing any value by sitting there and doing nothing, but you're giving money. This inflates the price of everything. So things now cost more to buy, because none of the values actually change. The value of a carrot is still the same. The value of the carrot will go up if there's scarcity, right? If there's food shortages. Now, the problem we're having is everyone's so fucking stupid in the government that not only are they printing money to inflate the currency, to make things less valuable, and you could say your savings, inflation really hurts middle-class people with money in the bank. That's what's really going away. But it gets even crazier than that, because we have carbon taxes and fuel taxes, and we're so stupid in how we administer everything that the cost of production is going up. Right now you have farmers who can't buy fertilizer, and fertilizer costs are going insane, so it's creating to farming shortages. Well, now when there's less supply of certain things and supply chain problems, well, now the relative value of food is going up. But you also have money being printed like we're run by a bunch of coked up bankers, which means the money you have is less valuable, but the things you're trying to buy are increasing in the value you need to buy them. This is a problem. It leads to poverty. It gets into a cycle where more and more bad things happen. People follow the economy, right? This is how countries collapse. You can look at the Weimar Republic and how it became 1930s Germany. That's what we're doing. So, when Pierre Poilievre says, we need sound money and we need alternatives, and Bitcoin can compete with the Bank of Canada. Now, he's very clear that, Bitcoin would not be legal tender in Canada, but if you're a merchant and you want to take Bitcoin and you're a consumer and you want to pay in Bitcoin, you would be allowed to do so. What is wrong with that, right? But Now you have the elitists in the Toronto Star doing nonsense things like this, like backing the Bank of Canada. Oh, the Bank of Canada. How dare Pierre Poilievre challenge the Bank of Canada? Oh, no. Right? And you have the elites and friggin' fake journalists, right, trying to pretend. They're like, oh, Pierre Poilievre, he's coming after the country by criticizing the Bank of Canada. He's calling, the Bank of Canada called people with Bitcoin financially illiterate. And I read the article. The reason why people with Bitcoin are financially illiterate is because some people bought things that are not Bitcoin and lost all their money. So people who invested in garlic bread coin or pancake coin or whatever other altcoin is out there lost all their money. And that proves why Bitcoin's an unstable asset. Thank you, Bank of Canada. The answer, we need CBDCs. Story for another day. But we have here a problem, which is hyperinflation. And then you have part of the solution, which is Bitcoin, which is a deflationary asset, right? There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin in the world. Bitcoin is mined or minted by, people, securing the blockchain. Someone way smarter knows more. We'll go into that. But you have Bitcoin, which is relatively, as inflation goes crazy, the relative price of like goods to Bitcoin is staying relatively stable. In fact, it's, the Bitcoin becomes more and more valuable because we're in hyperinflation and it's a deflationary asset. This is type of stuff that people need to have explained to them. But when Pierre Poilievre says the Bank of Canada is financially illiterate because they're saying that printing money doesn't lead to inflation when the number one cause of inflation is printing money, and then you have the establishment freak out, oh, he's attacking one of our institutions. He's not attacking. He's just pointing out that we have to stop printing money, you friggin' lunatics, right? But all the worst people in the world love the Bank of Canada and hate Bitcoin. There's a reason to it, because this is how they destroy our economy. It's by stupid things like this. It's printing crazy amounts of money and then not taking any consequences and blaming it all on Russia. It's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. Pierre Poilievre is right here. Hyperinflation is going to drive the average consumer into the ground, right? And the way it's perpetuated is like, oh, you bring on experts to CBC. Like, I think we might be peaking already. We might have peaked and the inflation crisis is over. It might be over. We haven't seen... I also love the fact that they quote inflation at like 6.7%. Guys, inflation's way higher than 6.7%. Way higher. The way they calculate inflation is called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, and it's a flawed stat if you have an economics degree. Essentially, it takes a basket of goods, like the average baskets of goods a consumer buys in April versus the average basket of goods the consumer buys in May. That's the price of inflation. Now, you might think, okay, that's pretty good. But what happens is they don't do things like pasta to pasta. So I use this because the CBC at the sense, well, I like pasta because the price of pasta is going up about 19%, not at 19%. You're like, yeah, that's the real inflation number. That's inflation. Our inflation number, CPI number at 6.7% is nonsense because it takes like the average you're actually spending on groceries. So the CPI is like the average household. So let's say you're an average middle-class family, you're a nurse, your husband's a carpenter, you're feeling the squeeze, you got 3 or 4 kids, whatever, and your average grocery bill, let's say before hyperinflation, you're average spending like $150 per month on groceries. You got this, and this, and you're on a significantly whatever budget. Well, all of a sudden inflation starts hitting and everything costs 20% more. So you don't actually have the money to pay 20% more, which would be $180 per week. Your budget's more like, okay, we can stretch it to $165. So you stretch it to like $165, and people who are still really poor and can only spend like $100 per month, well, they only spend $100. So they just buy less things, or they substitute things. Like we used to get beef, well, now we have to get soy or pork, right? So the price of beef is going up at 20%, but pork is cheaper than beef, so you substitute beef for pork, and that's how they calculate inflation. It's nonsense. So when you hear inflation numbers at 6.7%, oh my God, that means 20%. That means 20%. And we're just trying to print our way out of it. And no one is calling out the Liberals for having a budget that's going to blow out this even more. So I don't know how anyone with a half a brain could say, well, I think inflation's going to curb. Oh, looking at this new Liberal budget, oh, we're going to print money and then spend it on diversity nonsense. What a great way to solve inflation. What a brilliant plan. Morons. So that was my CBC. I guess that's the worst of the CBC for April 25th, 2022, the show where I watched the CBC so you don't have to. Oh, that one was more on the 22nd, but it stuck with me all weekend, and I had to yell at it. I just had to absolutely yell at that stupidity. Which means we got about 5 minutes left in this video. I'm not going to push the whole time, but I'll just give you my views on the Blue Jays. All right. Loving it. Right. I think it's great. I don't know what's wrong with Hyunjin Ryu. I think Alek Manoah is an absolute beast. I'm excited that he could be the number one in the rotation. Kevin Gausman looked great after 8 innings. I would have just let him finish the game in Boston. Let him throw a complete game. Come on, screw it. I want to see that in May. I get it. Short in spring training, blah, blah, blah. I'm loving the bullpen. Last year, our problem is we were blowing all these games, just by having a terrible bullpen. The bullpen's pretty solid. Romano blown save aside last night. But I'm really happy and excited about this Blue Jay team because the games they've been winning early this year, the offense still hasn't come around. Vladdy's still amazing. Bo's kind of cold. Springer's on and off. Collins is great. Teoscar's hurt. Jansen's hurt. Kirk really hasn't heated up. But eventually this lineup's going to do what they do, and they're going to be one of the better offensive teams in baseball. And the starting pitching has been a bit shaky, but this team manages to be able to win close games, which was their flaw last year. Is they could blow you out, or they could have great pitching performances and win like that, but they couldn't really scrape together good wins. So the team that looked one year away last year looks like they're ready this year, and I'm pretty excited. So there you go. I tricked you into listening to about 2 minutes of Blue Jay talk. So I'm calling it Blue Jays make the playoffs this year. And win one round. I mean, I want to say more. I want to say they get to the World Series, but I'm kind of feeling an ALCS defeat this year. This is what I'm calling. This is my prediction. Hope I'm wrong. Hope we win the World Series and then declare me king of the world. Elon Musk can be vice king and chief troller in chief. Yeah, whatever. I'll be fine. Maybe not king. Maybe just supreme emperor. Something humble and modest. Thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m.